the past 3 years, there's been a Roblox YouTuber who has always made a video about a situation whenever there's been a new situation. This YouTuber has made videos regarding people like Chex, EriQ, Pottermer, Kim Geyser, and even bigger situations like the official Teddy situation, the Roblox vs. Schlep, and even other Roblox. This YouTuber would expose. This YouTuber in question is called Gwamgo, and recently Gwamgo has faced tons and tons of allegations, starting his drama with another creator called CormanX, otherwise known as hysterization, and the resurface of an allegation that was debunked almost 2 years ago, spread by bad actors like Side Iced. And in today's video, I intend to explain these allegations, provide full context, go into full depth, show all the detail, and explain both sides of both of these people involved in the situation, being Guango and CormanX. But before that, I would appreciate if you liked and subscribed because this video will take me a very long time. Anyways, let's get into today's video. Before we can even talk about the new situation, we actually need to understand how Gwamgo and CormanX even know each other. You see, CormanX used to be a former video editor for Parlo. However, in September of 2025, obviously Parlo stopped uploading. So CormanX needed a new person to work for, and Gwamgo was in need of another editor. So CormanX started working with Gwamgo on videos. CormanX would work normally with Gwamgo for the next month and a half, until Gwamgo and CormanX were just having a normal conversation, and CormanX said something that was sort of controversial. I don't really want to get into what he exactly said, but here's the exact quote from one of Gwamgo's other video editors of what CormanX said. He said, "I'd rather vote up if they had good policy over someone who has bad policy." Shortly after this message was sent, CormanX ended up getting fired by Gwamgo, as Gwamgo obviously didn't like the remarks that CormanX had made. CormanX would then go back to his old channel, which he hadn't really used much recently, and started uploading his own commentary content about people like Pyrocynical, SD Animator, and even everyone who got exposed in 2025, a video that I've also made. Sounds like the end of a controversial beef. Well, not exactly. You see, despite CormanX uploading originally just some normal content, he would also upload a video called The Truth About Gwamgo and My Return. Now, I don't exactly want to get into what is actually said in this video. However, CormanX does admit to when he said he would rather have open files in the office if they had good policy over someone who has bad policy. And he was talking about government. So really, this is a horrible argument to make because people who are PDFs aren't exactly the most capable of running a government properly. And he tries to downplay this with something called the surgeon analogy, which I'm just going to roll the clip of what he says.
Now think of it like the surgeon analogy. One surgeon is a morally terrible person, but they are capable of doing the job and thus saves your life. The other surgeon is the kindest and nicest person you've ever met, but they are incompetent or accidentally unalives you on the operating table.
CormanX's attempt to justify what he said about having open in the office over people who have bad policy isn't really the best, as a surgeon analogy really doesn't make sense when you're talking about governments. Being a governor and a surgeon are two very different jobs. Now, on January 6th, the video by CormanX would actually be removed from YouTube due to it getting copyright strike. However, if you actually looked at the video, you can see that there's a slight crop in the Arsenal gameplay footage. However, this is to hide the fact that this Arsenal gameplay footage isn't even CormanX's footage. It's actually footage recorded by someone called DragonX. And DragonX sent the footage to Gwamgo and Gwamgo actually paid for this footage, meaning yes, technically Gwamgo does own this footage. So, because this is Gwamgo's footage, technically because of YouTube guidelines, policies, and copyright strike policies, this would mean that the videos that CormanX made, including Gwamgo's footage, are negligible to be taken down. It's justifiable with YouTube guidelines. Now, I'm not going to obviously defend this. I am neutral about this copyright strike. However, CormanX actually acknowledges that he did steal footage, so if you don't believe that it's stolen, he acknowledges it himself. DragonX acknowledged it over the fact that it was only recorded for Gwamgo. And I get it, it is just gameplay footage, but at the end of the day, if someone owns the gameplay footage and they don't want you to use it, just don't use it. And CormanX even had a response, which I find pretty bad actually. He says that he got permission from Gwamgo back when he was Gwamgo's editor. However, Gwamgo says that he's only sent CormanX the footage to add to his video, not CormanX's video, but to add to Gwamgo's video. Meaning CormanX never actually got permission, meaning yes, technically the copyright strike would be protected. It's not a false copyright strike, it's justifiable with YouTube guidelines. Now, here's the thing. When you receive a strike from someone, you are given their email information. And because Gwamgo doesn't actually have a public email, Gwamgo was email bombed shortly after striking CormanX. Now, you might think, wait, What is email bombing? Well, email bombing is when you basically spam someone's email inbox with tons of links to random websites, like verification codes. You try to sign up to new websites, and you do it over and over to the point where they can't see anything else in their email but these spam links. And when, like I said, when you strike someone, you give them your email information. The only person who would have had Gwamgo's email at this time would have been CormanX, and with the fact that Gwamgo had just struck CormanX had email bombed Gwamgo, which is a cybercrime, and it also count as harassment, and there are tons of fines related to this cybercrime. Now, in the process of this email bombing, CormanX would also try and sign up using Gwamgo's email to literal free websites, trying to make Gwamgo look even worse, which is literally a crime. Signing up to literal websites using someone else's email is breaking federal laws, and CormanX's authorities were immediately notified about the situation, and ongoing, this could result in a whole court case between CormanX and Gwamgo, as this has escalated from just a small internet drama to something much bigger. Now, regarding the gameplay footage, CormanX was striked on 4 different videos because they all contained Gwamgo's gameplay footage, meaning CormanX had more than enough chances to realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't use someone else's gameplay footage. Whether it's on the first video, where he should never have done it, which he even acknowledges himself, but when you do it 4 times, it's not just a one-time mistake then it becomes sort of intentional. Even if you consider it petty, I would consider it petty if it's a one-time thing. But when it becomes a 4-time thing, it's no longer just someone like striking down a video because you used their gameplay footage. Not once, but using it 4 different times across the span of 1 week, it becomes sort of annoying, and that person most likely isn't going to like it. And anyone who says, come on, the footage is just public domain, it's not public domain. The footage was never uploaded as free to use on any YouTube channel. There are videos that are set as free to use gameplay footage on random channels, but was that footage ever uploaded on anyone's channel? No, it was only used in Gwamgo's videos for the purpose for Gwamgo's videos. Not for Kormanx's videos, but for Gwamgo's videos. Now, I know I've talked about CormanX, but I also want to give a quick touch on Gwamgo. You see, Gwamgo has been notorious for taking situations way too far, like the Ultra Hand situations. At first, this was just a small internet beef. However, Gwamgo quickly turned it into something much bigger. He tried to contact Turkish authorities to get their side of the story, which, by the way, an arrest log is a private information that I don't believe random Turkish police officers are going to give to an American channel. You see where I'm coming from. This doesn't make sense. The Ultra Hand situation was very poorly handled. Now, I don't want to get deep into this last part because I feel like this is a controversial topic that Gwamgo has addressed himself on 2 occasions throughout 2026 and 2024, and I'd go watch his own 2 videos about the situation. But there are 2 bad actors called Sideist and Nift, who not only pushed out a whole allegation against Gwamgo, but aren't exactly the most credible people themselves. Sideist has not only harassed and ordered pizzas to people's house, he even attempted a murder on Steak, which I don't want to exactly get into, but he sent a positive COVID test to Steak's house. Steak has an autoimmune disease where if he gets in contact with the virus and actually gets sick from it, he could get very sick or potentially even die. But there was an allegation where basically Gwamgo went live on September 23rd with Parlo. Gwamgo asked Parlo to blur out some of the images for him because he was obviously preparing the stream. Parlo agreed and said sure. And when Gwamgo asked Parlo if the images were blurred, Parlo said yes. And here's the thing, the images weren't blurred. Parlo did not blur a certain image that should have been blurred. Now, this image, people have tried to twist into something different. They tried to twist this into CS or C, otherwise known as cheese pizza. However, this would not count. After tons and tons of reports, the FBI, the police, have told Gwamgo that it does not count. Even Sideist and Nift themselves admitted it doesn't count.
Are they gonna do something about the Gwamgo tip you submitted or not?
Probably not.
Fuck.
It's not CP.
And they sound visually disappointed because they know they can't push this out anymore because the allegation isn't true. Now, to clarify something real quickly, I am on no one's side in this situation. I believe these 2 creators need to settle this either in private or through a legal system, because this has escalated from a small 1 person versus 1 person beef to a much larger beef where people are getting swatted. They're getting doxxed, they're getting email bombed, they're getting striked. It's a whole mess as of now. Now, obviously, I would recommend you both watch CormanX's video and Gwamgo's video because they do describe their sides of the situation. I am just simply combining them. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. My name is Mighty. I make weekly Roblox documentaries. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video because it took me a long time. Anyways, Mighty out.